problem lies, and that is why people are now saying that, advising that we should move, that the world has gone into digital. We should move from the manual to the digital.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am Daniel Atai. Today, we'll be asking several questions, economical questions, with respect to the recent report of Orasanya's report on dissolution of about 102 agencies. However, before we go into that, we will also be looking into the status quo as regarding the Nigerian debt profile. I am in the studio with a renowned economist, and which I'll be introducing to you in the long run. Please stay tuned. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome back. As of 17th of March 2020, the Nigeria Senate, of course in the country, said the country's total debt profile is now 33 trillion naira. Our analyst in the studio today will be doing justice from that debt angle where Nigeria is at the moment with respect to the dissolution of these 102 agencies ordered by the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. We'll look into that. I want you to take a look at the report made to that regard.
As of 17th of March 2020, the Nigerian Senate said the country's total debt profile now is 33 trillion naira. That same week, the Senate approved $22.7 billion foreign loan for the federal government for an ultimate week. At that, the Director General of the Debt Management Office, DMO, Mrs. Patience Oniha, expressed concern that economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic may incapacitate the country from effectively servicing the debt. It is worthy of note that it was the Vice Chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign and Local Debt, Senator Mohammed Enagi, who made Nigeria's current debt profile known at a public lecture with the theme Public Debt in Nigeria. Trend, Sustainability and Management declared that from a low ratio of debt to gross domestic product (GDP) of about 3.4% at independence, Nigeria's total public debt as at September 30th, 2019, according to the Debt Management Office, stands at about 26.2 trillion naira, or its equivalent in dollars, $85.4 billion. Of this amount, total domestic debt is about 18 trillion naira, or equivalent of $58.4 billion, which is 68.45% of the total public debt. Now, with the recent approval of the 2016 to 2018 external borrowing plan, the total debt stock would be about 33 trillion and 21 debt per GDP ratio, that is GDP per capita. The big question in the minds of average Nigerian aware of this fact is, what did we do with the money? In other words, where did the money go? What do we have to show as a people for these huge debts accumulated over the last 4 decades? or so, the senator asked. He explained that borrowing has always served as veritable financial platforms for many countries of the world in running their economies, but judiciously utilizing such loans for intended projects and servicing the debt appropriately have also been problems for developing countries like Nigeria. According to him, realities on the ground in the country in terms of required infrastructures and debt accumulations between 2006 and now appear disjointed. The very reason he explained many Nigerians are worried whenever they hear that their government seeking for one loan or the other. He added, in stopping the ugly trend, the Senate and by extension the National Assembly is more than determined to monitor the execution on prompt utilization of new loans being sought for in saving the country from going back to pre-2005 and 2006 debt burden era. Consequences of these borrowings are that the sheer magnitude of the nation's annual debt and servicing, put at about 2.47 trillion naira for 2020, makes the provision of the basic but essential amenities and infrastructure in the country almost impossible without further borrowings. Clearly, Nigeria needs to get its public finance in order to avoid the potential fiscal and financial crisis ahead of the nation. The current debt situation in Nigeria needs to be properly managed and every borrowed naira or dollar carefully deployed, especially in the face of the continued dependence of the nation's economy on exported crude oil with its annual usual price volatility, and especially now that the oil has dropped drastically. But borrowings must be project tied and not just to support budget deficit. Furthermore, projects must be such to grow the economy and bequeath laudable infrastructure and not debt for future generations to come and pay. The government must improve on its internally generated revenue (IGR), its foreign exchange earnings, and reduce importation of unnecessary goods. To this end, the Ninth National Assembly will ensure very effective oversight, he said. However, Oniha, which is the DMO's Director General, in her remarks said there was no cause for alarm as regards the total budget profile of the country, which peaked at $85.390 billion or 26 trillion naira as at September 2019.
Welcome back. That was actually the report on the current Nigerian debt profile. Before we go into whether there is hope for the Nigerian economy with the recent dissolution of 102 agencies or merger per se. With me in the studio to discuss this is a presidential candidate in the 2019 election and also a renowned world economist, Mr. Tope Fashua.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning.
You're welcome to Spectacle.
Thank you.
Now, you've heard that report and the state of our debt profile. Could I say that now, is there hope for the Nigerian economy with the recent dissolution of the 102 agencies?
Well, I don't think the dissolution of 102 agencies is going to be the silver bullet that gives hope to the Nigerian economy. If at all, it's just one of those things that we need to do. However, the management of that dissolution is also subject to scrutiny, and we hope that it won't be politicized and that it will be done properly. I personally have been part of a team that looked at the Ronsai report, and that report itself originally is a very flawed report, and some of the assumptions that underline and underpin that report no longer exist because it's a report of maybe 2008, 2009. I remember going through that report And when we got to something like, when we got to NBS, Nigeria Bureau for Statistics, or National Bureau for Statistics, there were 2,100 staff in NBS as at the time the report was done.
Okay.
And the Oronsai team said, what do they need all these 2,100 people for? Just lay them off, or lay off as many of them as possible. I personally took exception to that because we're talking about an economy with no data, or with wrong data. I always tell people, the only thing that's worse than taking decisions in an economy without data is to take decisions with the wrong data, because you could be doing the opposite thing of what you're supposed to be doing. And so we need to get more data. Now, this is an economy with 774 local governments, about 10,000, almost 9,000 wards in this country. Each ward will contain about 6 to 10 villages.
Yes.
Are we saying
even more?
More in some instances? Are you saying we can't have 1 or 2 statisticians in those places, or we shouldn't? How do we get our primary data? Or you want to rely on ad hoc staff when you need them, when you should be getting more real-time data? And there's nothing wrong if you have a permanent staff that you're paying 50, 60,000 in each of those places. If you had 1 staff in those places, that's you're talking about 7,000, 8,000 staff already. The statistics office of the UK has about 3,500 staff for 60 million people, a country of 60 million people, in a country where they are used to giving information to government, and they have gridded information over a long period of time. So we have to be extremely careful. Let's not be sentimental. The issue is not merging the ministries. That's okay, so that we have less heads of ministries and parastatals, we have less big men, less executive directors. I don't know how they're going to do that, but what we are seeing, as you can see in the case of Access Bank and some of those guys who are trying to push out thousands of people into the unemployment market just because they can. What you probably will find is that the big guys will protect themselves and sack the small people. Now again, the issue then becomes, should we be sacking people? Does the government intend to sack people? We know that Minister of Finance, I think, had said that the government gave instruction that nobody should be laid off. We don't want anybody to be laid off, but I want to put it to you that there's opportunity for everybody to be very productive in this economy. And in fact, this COVID is perhaps the best opportunity we have to think in terms of our productivity, to move ourselves around. If I went to those ministries, departments, and agencies, rather than lay off, say 40, 50% of them, we can actually move 40, 50% of those who are there into more productive areas of this economy that where we need them. In fact, what COVID has explained and shown to us clearly is that the superstructure, the base, the foundation for this economy was not well laid. It wasn't laid. So when this thing hit, you could see every country deploying services to their people, people delivering milk at your doorstep, giving you money, we didn't have such a huge bedlam in many places. We had some Nigerian people who live in Italy, in Europe, and so on, showing us, look, we went to the ATM to withdraw the monies that government are giving us. They were, see you, we are not even the indigenous of this place. See the money that the government has given us. So we did not see a scenario where they had to go to the road and they are giving people and taking so much picture, people are shouting, yeah, they're giving us, and then some other people are saying this thing is fake, we didn't even get anything here, because they had organized themselves. All right, so we need our people to organize our country. Look, it's what I've probably devoted too much of my life to. I've written 6 books. At least 5 of them are based on this same issue that has now come to roost in this country today. We need, rather than sack those people, we have 13 million children on the streets. They need teachers. Nice. We need to retrain them to be teachers, some of them. Okay. We need to build new schools. Not every school will be able to go on the internet. The private schools are trying to do that, and they're not even doing it well enough. The public schools can't even begin to do that at all. Where are the children with the phones and the internet? We need more schools. Yeah. So we need the infrastructure for schools. We need to take those children off the streets immediately. Okay. Our health sector is nowhere at all. All of the things that are doing now, NCDC and co, I commend the guys who are struggling and trying their best. But everything seems to be limited to isolation centers and all of that. in a scenario that we had said, I was here earlier, that look, there's no time that a virus like that will not become community transferred in Nigeria.
You said it here.
What have you done in the primary healthcare centers? Nothing. So we haven't even taken advantage of this to reposition our health sector. We need staff in the health sector, even if it's just mere hospital assistants.
No,
you know what I'm saying? So education, health, environment, security are where they should be thinking of moving those who they're going to take from all of the ministries, departments. There are people who, listen, these politicians employ people and they get there. I know people who have been employed sometimes for 6 months. They don't have desks. They don't have anywhere to report to. Are we ready to be sincere? Are we ready for this war that we want to fight? Or is it just going to be a case of business as usual? The youth are there arguing with themselves on Twitter and cussing people out and so on. You know, when we actually need to be sitting down to actually articulate how do we move forward so that we don't end up throwing vulnerable people inside the fire. Like the banks are already doing now. And the government probably intends to do the same as well.
Honestly. Now, you've spoken a lot about where we are and what to do. Now, you mentioned 4 critical areas and sectors, let me say. Could you say that the security, the health, and which other 2 you mentioned? Education. Environment.
Those are key.
Now, these are 4 key sectors or issues that would improve our economy. Are they part of the enterprises that brings GDI to the country's economy?
Well, you know, you're talking about maybe increasing the GDP and all of that. Yes, certainly. See, we're talking about the foundation for the economy. This economy doesn't have foundation. We don't have an economy. We never had an economy.
You don't mean it.
We don't. If we listen, here we are. We're waiting for foreigners to come back and tell us where to go. The Chinese have run away now. The remaining ones here, they are busy. They are in hiding. I saw the other day police went and busted some of them in some place where they were doing some illegal business, whether in Zamfara or so. The Europeans and Westerners have also run away. Have they not given us the clear space to be able to think? All right? Are we thinking? Are we using that space? Are we using this opportunity? We're saying that, look, when you go to Europe, look at what happened with the NHS. Boris Johnson caught coronavirus. They went and they put him in a public hospital. When they finished with him, they rolled him out and then he went on TV and said, I thank the NHS. When our president goes to the UK, is it not the same NHS people that treat him? Whether he went into a private hospital or not. Those who are treating him are all, at least they were those who were trained by the NHS, National Health Service. National Health Service is the biggest employer in the UK. 1.7 million people are employed there. Let me say to you, sir, that we don't even have a public service in this country. They say there are too many. They are not even enough. They haven't even started.
You don't.
The NHS is the biggest employer in the United Kingdom. 1.7 million people. That's 21% of every worker in the United Kingdom work for government. I've written about this. I've done research about this. I put it to them. I sent it to this same Buhari government in 2015. Did they listen? They don't. Listen, we are wedded to disaster. We like problem. And so we find ourselves in this kind of scenario. The biggest employer in the United States as capitalist as they are, is the Department of Defense. 3.7 million people. 17% of every worker in the United States works for government. Anybody can go and research it online. 17%. In Nigeria, it's not more than 3%. You say there are too many. When they are not delivering service for anybody, we don't need them in secretariat carrying files. Listen, how many of them have been to the village, to all our villages of recent? What is happening in those villages? No road, no water, no light, no nothing, no social services. We can see now that the moment COVID hit, a lot of those countries, they rolled out social service providers, essential workers all over the place. You understand what I'm saying? And then they even recruited more. How many people were recruited here as volunteers? Very few. I even tried to sign up on one of those. Nobody called me back, you know. And so it doesn't matter. It's just what you see. You have to understand that those societies we go to for tourism, for health, for education, is because they worked on the fundamentals. Many of the universities that these big men send their children to they are public universities, funded publicly to a large extent. But they were able to do that. So now the world is, I mean, everything and circumstances and fate and destiny is calling us back to those very important investments that we need to make. I want to make it very clear that Nigeria's public service is not too big. As a matter of fact, it is almost non-existent. In my research, I found out that the smaller the proportion of your is to being a failed state, where you will find 4%, 2%, 8%, 6% of the workforce working in the public service is mostly in Africa and some parts of Southeast Asia. In America, I said it's 17%. In UK, it's 21%. In the OECD countries as a whole, which are the top countries of the world, it's about 21, 22%. In Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, 35% of every worker works for government. So that when you are coming in from abroad, you are, number one, they have surveillance over you. A lot of them are in security department. They've kept the environment is clean. They are in environmental department. You go there, you love it. So I like London. In fact, it's a nice country. You know, but the point is, go and clean your damn country as well, is what we're saying. That's what COVID is saying to us. Have we cleaned Nigeria better than pre-COVID? No, we haven't. So now is the time that we have to do the work.
And could you say, are we late now? Or?
We are not late. I mean, listen, they said so the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The next best time is right now, today.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? The next best time is today, environmental sector. I said it then, that even students who are coming out of JS3, you can begin to read them and give them a sense of work. And register them on a sort of scheme. They don't need to work more than 2-3 hours a day, and then you pay their money. Everything is biometric. They sign in biometrically. Those graduates that are looking for work now, you should be the ones supervising them. One graduate mentoring and supervising 3 or 4 in a team, taking every space in Nigeria until we obsess with our every space in this country. Go out there, you say you are Maitama, you are Sokolo, you see filth on the street, you see in some instances the sewage is leaking on the road, you see plastic thing everywhere, all of those manholes opened and plastic bottles all over the place.
All right.
So look, there's work in this country. Do we want to do the work? No, we don't. We were more interested in buying private jets, flying all over the place, big man, buying SUV and all of that with government money. That is what some of the white men came to this country, they saw. And they felt that these people, they are not thinking right. And a thing like this COVID is a challenge and an examination for everybody. But more for a country like Nigeria. No. They say, okay, you go and deal with it now because you don't know what to do with your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tope Fashua. We will take a short break, and when we come back, sir, we will analyze this a new approval of the Orasanye's report, and then you give us a solution pack into it, whether this report that has just been approved is part solution that the Nigerian government and the economy, they are actually thinking. Please stay tuned.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hit Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seat and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NightComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries,
Right. You're welcome back, and this is still Spectacle on Television Nigerian, and we are asking if there is any hope for the Nigerian economy amidst COVID-19 pandemic. And with me in the studio is still a former presidential candidate in the 2019 election and a renowned world economist, Tope Fashua. And I want to look at the approval of the Orasanya's report. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the implementation of the report submitted by the Presidential Committee on Restructuring and Rationalization of Federal Government Parastatals, Commissions and Agencies during the Goodluck Jonathan administration, commonly called the Oransanye report. The 800-page report had recommended the abolishment and merging of 102 government agencies and parastatals. Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, told Channels Television and TVN on Wednesday that the President's approval has been forwarded to the Head of Civil Service and Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Now, the President has approved that this administration should implement the Orasanya's report. Ahmed said it has reviewed the whole of the size of government and has made very significant recommendations in the terms of reducing the number of agencies, and that would mean merging some agencies. This is a report that has been in place for a long time, and there hasn't been implementation, but the President has approved that this should be implemented, and we have conveyed Mr. President approval to the arms of the government that are responsible for this, and that will be the office of the Secretary of the Government and the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Stephen Oranya said. Stephen Oranya, a former head of civil service, had headed a committee set up by Buhari's predecessor to identify civil service inadequacies. At the time, the 7-man committee said the rationalization of agencies, parastatals, and commissions would have human dimensions and cost implications, and recommended that the government should focus on empowering the MDAs, that is the ministries, departments, and agencies, to do more for less. At the time when the report was submitted, there were 541 government parastatals, commissions and agencies, statutory and non-statutory, in the country, and the report recommended a reduction in the number of statutory agencies from 263 to 161. At present, the number of federal agencies has increased, and it is estimated to be close to 1,000. Now, Mr. Tope, you can see, so while we brought this report and brought you here today is the conflict about the estimate of the agencies and the disbandment. Is there a contradiction in the economic policy?
Well, no, I don't think it's up to 1,000 actually. Even that 541, yes, around that time, if they've added at all, maybe close to 600. They haven't added that many. However, what the issue is also that, a lot of times politicians come and they find reason to create one thing or the other. They create it. They tell you it's temporary. Before you know it, it becomes permanent. It's not like PPPRA was meant to be a very temporary affair under Obasanjo. Before you knew it, everybody is buying big house and big complexes or big offices, billion-dollar projects. Mind you also, this thing was actually initiated under Yaradua, not even under Goodluck Jonathan. Okay. So Jonathan was not able to implement it. And of course, the first regime or the first tenure of President Buhari, they were also not able to. Maybe they are trying to do it now. I'm just urging them we have to be extremely, extremely careful. Yes, we don't need a lot of the nomenclatures. We don't need as many EDs and directors and all of that in each of these agencies. But it has to be very cleverly done. As a matter of fact, it could be an opportunity for us to improve productivity across the nation. All right, like I said before, the basis of our society and economy has not been built. The foundation has not been built. It's a good time to find how to build that foundation. And after building that foundation of the economy, of the society, then we think in terms of increasing productivity. So, for example,
now still repeat those foundations.
Yes, for example, we know at some point in time, after all analysis, it became clear to many of us that, look, we seem to be shutting out the local governments of this country, all right? The local government, there's little productivity, little going on in all of those places. As a matter of fact, the farmer living in the village finds it difficult to transport even his farm products to the market. And when he gets to the market, usually in the time of harvest, everybody is also there in the market. So the pricing goes down. It gets very little, which we expect him. We need to commend all of those farmers. Because we expect that he plants something for maybe 6 months or 9 months or 3 months, as the case may be, gets them, brings them to the market at the same time that all of his friends are coming to the market, makes whatever little money he can, including the fact that we haggle with them a lot. And we don't usually believe that we have to pay them. We go to ShopRite or whatever other company, and everything is there on the shelf. The 3 pieces of corn, they can sell it for you 5,000 naira in those places. But then the man comes to the market, or the woman comes to the market with a farm product, we say, my friend, if you don't take 15 naira, I can't buy it. And we're not thinking about, can this person survive? Do we think about if they can survive? We don't.
The short term and the long term.
However, we expect that when they get whatever little they get around that time, they are able to manage and fulfill all the obligation until the next harvest season. People who probably didn't go to school to learn financial management. And most of our people, in Nigeria, okay, I was saying earlier on, 3%, only 3% of Nigeria's working population workforce is employed in the public service, whether public service, civil service, whatever. The federal government is not employing up to 100,000 people. The federal government of Nigeria, on paper,
are you serious?
They are not employing more than 100,000 people. And probably
with all the ministries,
they are not employing up to 100,000 people. So the rest we are saying, okay, how many are employed by state? How many? You know what I'm saying? So you add all of them together. It's not up to
both the public
3 million.
And the civil offices or
it's not up to 3 million.
Made up of politicians.
It's not up to 3 million. And then when you now find that 3 million, our workforce today, if we are 200 million, at least we'll have 100 million people who should be working. Even if we are 180 million, even if we are 160 million, we should have 100,000 people between the ages of 18, and 65, 70. That's the biggest band.
Who should be working?
Who should be working
under the federal government?
We don't have money. Who should be working?
Okay.
Who should wake up in the morning and go to work?
Whether private or
public.
Okay.
Which we have, we should have 100 million of such. Not more than 3 million of them is employed by whether state government or federal government or local government. Because we seem not to have got the concept of what a public service should do. In the United States alone, even people who work with foster kids alone, children that are straying or children that are found on the street, this Almajiri problem alone should employ 500,000 Nigerians.
Of course.
If we were serious. People taking them off the streets, recounseling them, training them, putting them in school, enforcing that they are not back on the streets. This problem alone, are we serious? Why not? Let the governors continue to do whatever it is they want to do. And listen, when it gets to brass tacks, they say, well, the sky is falling. If it falls on everybody, we sort ourselves out on the other side, we know who remains. That's the issue right now. All right. So look, that's the position right now.
The position you are actually speaking now, is it a position where you are resigning to fate? Since you
what can I do? I'm just a private sector person. I try to contest in this country. Who voted for me? They didn't believe that people like us have any idea. So you get your just desserts. But I'm also putting myself in a scenario where I can assist with my idea. Exactly. When I went back, I wrote an article in Premium Times some time back, about 2 years ago. I said, the jobs Nigerian governments refuse to create. All of these things are in there. The jobs Nigerian governments refused to create. It was an article.
Okay.
All right. I wrote an article a while ago which I titled "The Debt Nigerian Government Does Not Intend to Repay." I predicted the day will come, we will start to run around for debt forgiveness, because I wasn't seeing how we were using those monies in those days. Now you're talking of 33 trillion. If we divide that by 306 or whatever the official exchange rate is, that's over $100 billion. That's over $100 billion. If we divide by 306 or 316, whatever rate it is they are using now, that's over $100 billion. When our debt was $35 billion pre-2006, Obasanjo used to say that, he said, listen, he said, we borrowed $12 billion. We repaid $38 billion. I listen to that.
Yeah.
We borrowed $12 billion. We repaid $38 billion. Yet they say we are owing $5 billion. He said, what kind of mathematics is this? But when you borrow and you don't pay on time, the lender will introduce very punitive interest rates, and you're under obligation to pay. I say, if we couldn't pay, okay, so what we did, we were begging all over the place then. We were the only country in Africa that the Paris Club refused to give total write-off. Do you know that? They looked at Nigeria and said, you guys have money. I mean, you are always bragging all over the place, giant of Africa, you go abroad, you are the ones flying all the private jets, you are the ones doing the big man and then 1,500 and, the excellency, this and that. They say you people are not a poor country, so we cannot write it off for you. So under Kojowala, then they say, okay, you know what, give us 12, we have a 30 billion chunk with the Paris Club. They say, this 30 billion, they've collected money from us too much.
Yes.
But when you are not acting with your senses intact, people will take advantage of you. So what they said was, out of this 30 billion, give us $12 billion, then we write off 18 billion for you. And that was what we did. And our debt profile went down to about $5 billion. But immediately that happened, we started collecting. Again. Even under the Okonjo-Iweala before she left. Even when she came back under Jonathan. By the time she was leaving, we were back to owing about $53 billion. So these gentlemen here now have only taken 53 billion or thereabout, 200 billion. Whether in terms of the new debts they collected or the revaluation of the debt.
So this dissolution of 102 now, who is going to suffer it?
This 102 what? 102 dissolution. 102 parastatals, of course. This I can see.
Who is going to suffer it? Okay, and who is going to benefit?
Daniel, let me tell you something. You see, yesterday or 2 days ago, I was just thinking, what's going to happen to Nigeria's economy? Which people are going to suffer? Today is Friday. When things were normal, by tomorrow there's going to be a lot of weddings, a lot of burials, a lot of this, a lot of that. They will invite comedians. They will invite musicians. Event planners are engaged. Those who bake cake. Those who rent their event centers out. All of them, they're out of work. Then you go further, musicians, all of those people. So, but then I'm now beginning to realize that, look, we needed to add in that this year. Of course, we know that the oil sector workers are affected. Oil is not selling, those ones, they don't even waste time. If you go now, you probably find out that the IOCs have actually laid off so many people under the table. They won't let you know. They are very quick with that. They look at it, the money is not coming. They said Shell declared a loss maybe last quarter or something like that. They lay off thousands of people the world over. So all sector workers, we can see also what's going on with the bankers. I think now we need to begin to even add even the pastors. We have a lot of pastors.
We have a lot of pastors.
A lot of pastors. They are out of work. Yes. And then if you happen to be a pastor who is also a comedian, and a pastor who is also a musician, you are out of work on two fronts. So now we need to also add those pastors. We need to also add those people who work in some of these parastatals. They are in danger. So you see, my own advice is to quickly run forward and advise government and say, listen, we don't have to waste these people. There's opportunity to engage them.
That is it.
Mind you that there's also one very important thing to deal with. Between the what they call, sometimes they say it's public service or whatever, but sometimes they say it's parastatals, but then they talk about core service. In the core service, people employed into core ministries, the highest salary you can earn as a director, the last time I checked, the highest director, grade level 17 step 9 is 5.4 million gross. After tax, take maybe 1.4 million out of it, remaining 4 million, divide that by 12. They can't find 400,000 every month. That's the highest level. However, in some other parastatals, which I won't mention, who are the lucky parastatals, that money that the top director is earning is what a new entrant will earn. per month.
You don't mean it.
Yeah, so how do we bridge that gap?
And
Every
they produce anything
they don't produce anything. Sometimes they say, we're paying them like that so that they won't be corrupt. But sometimes they're even more corrupt than the people that you're not paying. And every government has run away from this problem, including the present government have run away from that. And there are some people who will come and say, well, I was employed from abroad and you have to match my salary. Are we ready to deal with that? Or are we going to victimize all these small people earning 60,000 naira, 50,000 naira?
100 at most.
100 at most. You waste all of them and throw them back into the market. When you have job, listen, I've also said that we have an opportunity to reinvent this economy, to rebuild from the scratch.
That is what I want to hear.
Yes, so I've said, I don't know if I said it when I came here the last time. Nigeria can actually begin to think of raising a local domestic bond.
Okay.
And the more I've ruminated over that idea and even shared it with some top people, I realized that there's some sense in it because actually we have no choice. So if we were raising now you can't go to the international market to raise money. But the other time I heard that the DMO actually did some monthly bond raising and all of that, and the exercise was oversubscribed by 256 billion naira. They said they wanted to raise 20 billion. They raised more than by 250 something, which they had to return to people. So I'm wondering, why are we not thinking big and raising more money? This is the time for us to say we don't even care, whether corrupt or no corrupt money. We're going to take it and then draw a line. All right, and this is the time because I know that there are Nigerians who are cash liquid, and this is the time we can get them to invest in this economy. By way of patriotism, we have seen now that those Nigerians don't believe in their country ab initio. So they believe that look, everything foreign is better. But now they have invested abroad. They can't even get to those investments
at all now.
So they can't get to those assets. They can't. So it has shown you that there are times that globalization will collapse, and all you are left with is the country you were born.
Yeah, Mandela says so.
So at the end of the day, why are we not tapping into the resources of these people to raise at least 20 trillion, which would be about $65 billion or more? And in that way, we lock them into the economy and then make them believe in this economy by force.
Thank you.
And in that way, because right now, the other flip side is people are saying, if you have naira, change it to dollar, because the naira will fall and become like Zimbabwe currency. Yes. Now, the truth is, they have no basis. When I listened to some of them, I couldn't see the fundamentals they were talking about. That was, because every other country can be running into the dollar. Even some people have dollar now, they're looking for what to run into. Some people believe that the dollar itself will fall.
The dollar will fall, even from
whatever. The point is look, you cannot play that FX game right now because look, the guys who play FX game, they play FX game, using all sorts of tricks and all of that. But at the end of the day, the thing that is clear that you can do is to believe in your country and invest in your country and hold your country's currency. And the government should be quick enough because the budget for this year is gone to pieces. 2021, 2022 as well. The way I'm looking at it, all of those budgets are gone to pieces. Why are you going to find the money? NNPC, when will crude oil recover? When it recovers up to what level? How can you set store on that? In fact, if left to me, I say take oil out of the Nigerian budget permanently. This is a good time.
But it comprises about 97% of our GDI.
Well, yes, but not up to that. Not up to that. It's about 80% of our foreign exchange inflow.
Okay.
But in terms of the GDP itself. Is about 15%. However, that 15% is very important because it catalyzes the rest of the economy. All right, and it's just like the budget is very important. So the budget is 10 trillion this year. Okay, 10 trillion this year, which is less than $30 billion, even though it has been cut now. Yeah. But the GDP itself is about $450 billion. So the budget itself is 3/45, 1/15 of the economy, of the GDP. But it is very important in catalyzing the rest of the economy. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that we should be raising money now in order to finance this budget. NNPC is in trouble. Oil production is in trouble. The GMD said a couple of days back that look, at some point in time they have to pack it in. FRS, tax collectors, nobody is going to pay taxes when nobody is doing business. Yeah. That is why I support the decision of President Buhari to begin to ease this lockdown.
Okay.
People don't understand what they are talking about. Yeah. You say it's about economy, I shouldn't talk about economy. When you don't understand that, look, When the economy goes down, a lot more people will die than how many? 58 people have died by COVID in Nigeria.
Yes.
When people are sitting at home, those who these banks are laying off and all of that, now they are sitting at home. You said they should continue sitting at home. They are announcing on Twitter that their work is finished. You don't know that they will develop disease and die. Oh, you want the millions? You want them? They want us to give the world millions of people who are dead? No, we won't do that.
Thank you very much.
Our people must go out there and struggle for whatever is left.
So there is hope.
And there's hope in this God. Listen, I don't have the time, and they're not paying me for it. And I've written so many they don't listen to. But I'm going to sit down maybe over the weekend and write the reason why we should be raising a lot more money now and using the resources of our people and of this country to catalyze and to prime and to reboot the economy as a whole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tokwe Fasho. I think what you will do, the number of books you've written so far, bring them. Let's do business. Let's also, help you to.
I don't even.
We'll have to advertise them much more. I think the government and even individuals and private owned businesses have a lot to learn from you. Thanks for coming to Spectacle on TVN.
You're welcome, sir.
I hope when I call you again to showcase that book on contractual basis, you will be much available.
That was great. Thank you
very much, sir. And this is where Spectacle will stop today. I believe that the FG will learn from an expert like this, an economist, and he has given much blueprint on hope for Nigeria despite the COVID-19 pandemic and despite the crisis that is happening all over the world. Nigeria can actually move forward, capitalize on this downtown and make their own economy stronger. Can even become an exporter, a solution to other foreign nations. Yes, we can do it if we think about the time of Tafawa Balewa and all the eras that passed where Nigeria actually was the giant not only of Africa, almost the world. The US, the EU, they gave us much respect in terms of our production here. So we can still go back. It is not too late, and I believe Mr. Tokwe Fasho have just done justice to the economic blueprint that we have to follow. Thank you for watching, and I have been Daniel Atai.